My woman's mythology's painting my heart black with sin, derivative of Adam and unforgiven. I began to fall, that caused us all to be banned from Eden, and I don't think he's letting me back in. My woman's apologies are carved into my bones. Shame of being single, the guilt of leaving home. There's no escaping my destination, weighs heavy like a stone. They say a woman can't make it on her own, 'cause a woman is minor and she's dark, judged not as a whole by her parts. Yeah, a woman's Dionysian and wild, or in the kitchen, heavy with child. I grew up in overalls and found my way to skirts. Used to bruise my elbows, now my heart gets hurt. I ran fast and fought the boys and played round in the dirt. A woman broke, starts carrying the curse, 'cause a woman is minor and she's dark, judged not as a whole by her parts. Yeah, a woman's Dionysian and wild, or in the kitchen, heavy with child. My voice contained by a men's chorus, my body tossed by the sea. I'm Mother Earth and the Virgin Mary and Persephone. My identity's a construct and my deeds are symbols too, placed under that male gaze. But where's my point of view? My woman's mythology's painting my heart black with sin, derivative of Adam and unforgiven. I began to fall, that caused us all to be banned from Eden. Sometimes it seems like a woman cannot win. Sometimes it seems like a woman cannot win. Sometimes it seems like a woman cannot win. How can some people never floss and get no cavities, while I can't go 6 months without something to fill or put on watch or root canal? I floss twice a day, usually 3 times. I've been doing it since I was 13 years old and had 13 cavities. That one dentist visit where my mother must have realized something wasn't right. I guess you could say the anorexia went straight to my teeth. But really, I was in the 8th grade and I lost 20 pounds, maybe just 15, on a goal of 700 calories a day. That used to sound like a lot. I'd see 700 calories and anorexic together and think, you weren't really anorexic. You gave in too frequently to really be anorexic. You had to chew and spit your food discreetly into a napkin so your friends would stop asking questions at the lunch table like, why have you stopped eating lunch? Did you count those calories, the ones that made it in? You weren't really anorexic, you were just trying to be thin. But then again, it did hurt my butt bone to sit down. I got lightheaded when I stood up. I still made straight A's, but I laughed a lot less, and my teeth started to rot from lack of nutrients. I never had 13 cavities again, but I did have to have 2 root canals. The dentist said he was surprised I never felt any pain. The nerve must have just given up, he said. Must have just given up. I was lucky. I didn't have to feel my teeth shriek. But my body was screaming, my hair was clumping in the drain, my down fuzz growing, my spirit withering, and my mind humming, with calorie counts and goal weights and tips and tricks, and 1,000th inspiration photos from runways and magazines, and 100th inspiration quotes like, "Thinner is the winner," and "I want collarbones that catch rain," and "Every time you say no thank you to food, you say yes please to thin." And the one that haunted me more than anything, from that Maria Hornbacher memoir I kept checking out from the library about addiction and recovery, if you knew something was killing you, would you stop? I guess I started when I saw what it was to be a woman. When I saw the ridicule my friend with early breasts was going through. When I realized my hips would never curve into the shape of a pear. When I determined that I had an apple-shaped body with an unfavorable hip-to-waist ratio and thought that maybe if I was thin enough, it wouldn't matter. I was tall. I could be a model or a ballerina, untouchable. And everybody complimented me for a while, until they saw how dead I had become. Kerri, my friend, passes me a note. "Kerri, I'm worried about you." People who don't even know you come up to me in the hallway and ask what's wrong with Kerri. I tell them I don't know, but I do. You've lost yourself since you stopped eating. I don't know who to talk to anymore. It's like you're not even there. That note, which I still have, breaks me now. But then I was angry. Angry that everybody was worried about me, like I didn't know what I was doing. I knew exactly what I was doing. But I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know the decade of unraveling that would come after, the bulimia and compulsive overeating that would follow. I didn't know that I would look in the mirror at 23 years old, observe that even though I felt fat, I didn't want to kill myself, and call that progress. I am learning to treat my body like a temple, to not stuff it, or starve it, or distrust it. I am learning to adorn myself in only clothes that fit perfectly, that remind me what I've come to believe. I am worthy of beautiful things, no matter what I weigh. I am learning to make an altar of my flesh, not just the bones I used to celebrate. The skin, the fat, the muscles, the arteries, the tendons, the vessels in life, my vessel in life. We, us, the girls who have eating disorders not bad enough for treatment. There are better ways to show our strength than through starvation. And if I've learned one thing, it's that the will to thrive must be stronger than the will to diminish. Put your hand on your heart and feel it with me. Thrive, thrive, thrive. I found myself standing in front of the refrigerator, my hand in the peanut butter jar, scraping the gunk into my mouth as fast as my saliva could keep up with my swallowing. This was just after eating 1 pound of red grapes on the walk home from work, and after stopping into the neighborhood coffee shop that employs industrious yet underprivileged teenagers for a cookie. But they didn't have a cookie, so I bought a brownie for $1.50 and had that instead. And after I had a few handfuls of bran cereal on my way to the laundromat, and after coming back into the house and going back to the laundromat to transfer my clothes to the dryer, I came back into the house and peeled 2 organic carrots, which I ate with hummus. I was thinking about warming up my voice or practicing guitar or doing something else, capital P, productive, when I found myself watching this online video of a poet talking about this girl he loves, but his OCD had broken them up. Even though at first, it was part of what made her fall for him. He's speaking into the microphone and he's telling us that he's leaving the lights on and the doors unlocked for her, so she knows he's waiting, trying to change. I start to cry, and That's when I find myself standing in front of the refrigerator, scooping the peanut butter into my mouth quickly without enjoyment, just to stop my heart from reeling. But then something else stops me. My awareness, I think. I have been meditating lately. And I look at myself from within and say, hey, that isn't you. It's just a thing you started to do when there was too much to feel. And you got scared that unless you were perfect, you were unlovable. But you're loved. And I know you think that none of this food addiction, eating disorder stuff has anything to do with loving yourself. But it does. And I'm telling you, you're loved, and you don't have to do that anymore. You can choose to leave the doors unlocked and the lights on, and let some compassion in for yourself. So I stopped. I eased the lump of gunk down my throat as I washed the peanut butter off my hands. I sat down and I wrote this poem. And I swear to God that anytime I feel like cramming food into my mouth from now on, I'm going to sit down and write a poem instead. Because I'm blessed enough to know that even though sharing this is one of the most shameful things I can imagine, that some of you need to hear it. Some of you know how it feels. And some of you might think of this poem the next time you find yourself standing in front of the refrigerator, your hand in the peanut butter jar. And remember that I love you. I used to bring my guitar to coffee shops and subway cars and bars, singing songs to show my soul deserved attention, expose my heart so that every man would know I'd been the victim, wishing for a daddy to love me, though I'd never admit it. It's in the lyrics. They told me my words made them cry and my voice made them want to know my body firsthand. Those men fell in love with a reflection of myself, and I christened it holy, an image of salvation, the Virgin Mary, all goodness and caring and hurt of the earth in a skirt begun repairing, just barely. Until I found someone who never heard me sing before he asked for my name, who didn't hear my lyrics, who didn't hope he'd be saved by my devotion. And so when we started staying in together and I felt safe, writing words in my journal but not taking the stage, it's exhausting, I'd say, to have men think that they know you. I want my body to be mine, and yours, dear, too, but mostly mine. I want everyone to know that the simplicity of a rhyme can break you, like a tray of peanut brittle still whole in a sheet, ready to be smashed into bits to put into treat bags for fifth graders who will suck and bite and dig pieces out of their teeth and neglect to dig pieces out of their teeth, the beginnings of cavities that their mothers will resent paying for. I want everyone to know that words can make you break, like the candy apple that ripped your slightly loose baby tooth right out, leaving you bleeding at the carnival, liable to follow any Pied Piper of a clown to his dressing room, so you can shatter your own delusions as he wipes the makeup off with a sponge, haunted. A girl singing words can break you open like that, but only if you never think she'd want you. Once your lust starts to want her, you're lost. Now every word is a turn-on and you're stuck between the truth and your cock. If I could wipe my DNA off the lips of every man I kissed, because it was easier than saying no. If I could erase every kiss that meant love me instead of I love you, I wouldn't do it, but I'd be tempted. You, my lover, who I kiss literally every chance I get. I know you like pepper because you grind my immense yet specific love into hundreds of kisses raining down on your body like you made the black dots rain down on that frittata I made us this morning. Your mill makes my love fall in flecks of affection, and I love to give it. I used to perform not to wake people up, but to make sure that they saw me. I've always been the girl with brown hair, brown eyes, slightly above average height. I was white bread and not wealthy, so I raised my hand to show I was smart and sang, knowing it was sexy. If I want a ring from you, it's partly because I want those men to know that they don't know me like you do. Even if they read every word I wrote, bought every homemade EP I put out in naive but honest artistry, even if they had my body, they never had my soul. And now I know that getting on stage isn't about getting off on the attention, the applause, or the sex. It's about stretching your neck out so far you see into the hearts of your audience, our hearts, beating 300,000 times a day without us even asking them to. What I'm saying is our organs work for us despite misguided intentions. Without flinching, they live out every groan, every shout, and you can call desire love if you want to, but I know better than the girl that used to sing for her supper. Now I set my own glorious table in every coffee shop, subway car, and bar I sit in. These days, if I bring my guitar, I'm not playing to make you love me. Just listen.
Leaving
toddlers. All I see is toddlers. Wobbly-bodied, need my mommy, chubby, cheeky toddlers. This is a new affliction. Well, not quite so new. Once my nephew grew out of the baby blob, got a sparkle in his eye, and started to walk, I was gone. Every Instagram photo posted, and I'm glowing, showing off to my friends and hoping that even seeing a very vague version of yourself is the trigger that makes you need toddler fever help. Or maybe the switch gets flipped once you've found someone you want to have kids with. And not in the I'd have his baby sort of superficial way attached to attractive procreation and a roll in the hay, but the I find this person so lovely, incredible, responsible, and trustworthy that I want to raise a child with them, even if it suspends our love life indefinitely. Of course, I'm in no hurry. I'd prefer to wait till I'm 40, which is why this toddler fawning thing is so curious to me. Years ago in clown class, yes, you heard that right, clown class, we were supposed to pretend that we were in front of a baby carriage making the little one grin. Now, my classmates easily found the keys, peekabooing and cooing like pros in motherese, but then it got to me, and I couldn't speak. And my teacher said, "What's wrong?" And I shook my head silently. And he said, "What's wrong, Kerri?" And I still wouldn't speak, and he said, "Just do it." And I looked up and said, "I hate children." And everybody laughed and awed, like, isn't that funny and sad, and terribly funny and sad? And I wasn't kidding. And I still don't like to coo at babies if someone is listening. Babies are fine. They're lumpy and soft and supine. But when they start to walk and talk and laugh and voice things, that's when they're mine. That's when I want to scoop them up in my arms and swing them around carefully. Throw them up in the air safely. Let them climb on me. Oh man, not like I did with a guinea pig one time, but we won't talk about that. Throw them up in the air safely. Let them climb on me, bearing their weight, because I know that all I wanted when I was a kid was someone nice and big and happy I could climb on. Who I wouldn't break and who wouldn't break me. Who I wouldn't break and who wouldn't break me. Who could spin me around but not go so fast that I feared the ground. Who could touch me without digging into my skin. Someone whose only story was the joy of my existence. Who watched me every minute and let their heart pang every time I hurt myself. I see a toddler now and think, wow, there's a little one I'm supposed to keep safe. There's a little spirit that hasn't forgotten how to play. There's a being that needs more patience and compassion than I could even fake right now. But someday, a toddler won't just make me smile. They'll take my breath away. I want to talk about God in New York City. I want to talk about the young boy's arms on the 6 train tonight. I want to talk about rooftops. I want to talk about the fish market down the block that is open way too late at night to just be selling fish. I want to talk about the bartender with the amazing smile washing dishes while he helps me decide which burger to get. I want to talk about how I met my fiance while working at a shitty cafe in Bushwick. I want to talk about how much money you can spend at a Duane Reade and still not have everything you need. I knew I should have bought the emergency, but I was cheap and needed blister band-aids for my feet, and now I'm freaking because this woman is sneezing beside me, wet mucus particles flying several feet. You've all seen the germ ads, you know what I mean. I want to talk about disease and dis-ease. I want to talk about shunning the people that worked on the Ebola ward at Bellevue. I want to talk about the excessive fluids on the Stairmaster at the gym the week we all thought Ebola might mutate and the world would really end, but then didn't. I want to talk about how you can think you nailed a job interview when you didn't. I want to talk about feeling useless. I want to talk about feeling so useless that you're ashamed of the absurdity of your feeling. Like fragility just dropped atop your skin, making you forget the muscle you laboriously built underneath it to sustain you in times like these. I want to talk about times like these. The cognitive dissonance we must endure in order to live our lives. The issues we must ignore to not go around screaming all the time. Racism, gun control, climate change, fracking, corporate greed, healthcare, debt, distraction, war, poverty, gay rights, rape, anxiety, PTSD, so many pills to take, not to mention being inundated with productivity hacks and time management tips, and everything you do getting sucked into the big black hole of the internet. I'm amazed at how useless I feel in the face of everyday modern life. Like I wasn't built for this. And now that divinity has been marred by deviant priests and holy wars, and art can't be separated from the marketing of the art, I'm lost. I don't know how to talk about God. And if someone were to take the time to ask me a worthwhile question, I'm acutely afraid that I won't have a thing to say. The blood flows out of me. I can't remember the last time I had a period this heavy, that I had a period at all. The gynecologist says it's normal these days to not have one, birth control hormones being the way that they are. Nothing to worry about. When you want to get pregnant, then something to look at. We're having the same conversation we had 1 year ago. I recognize her familiar words. I want to stop this repetition. I bled even less this year, I tell her. Only a few times. I just thought you should know. I tell her again that when I was 13 and started starving myself, I lost my period. And when I gained weight and it didn't come back, I got scared it meant that I wouldn't be able to have kids. I had a panic attack, almost 15 and a half. Told my mother, we went to the doctor. They put me on birth control, which made my breasts grow and my body thicken. I hated myself, but I started getting a period. I didn't tell her all that, just the beginning. She says, it's good then. You're on the treatment. That's good. Do I want I'm sorry you had to go through that? I wasn't fishing for sympathy. I was just relating the facts, thinking she might have some medical insight on my lack of blood. She opens me up. I'm on the table, shaking. I hate this part. Everybody hates this part. But I get a gripping, visceral fear. My body remembers art modeling on the bed. Remembers the request to open my legs. My knees shaking, eyes closed eyes, and the shock of being touched by a tongue that wasn't invited. My body curled up, frozen, unable to speak. This was supposed to be about art. What was he thinking? I went to his house wanting to prove to myself that I could be seen, captured on the page as I was, soft-bellied and thin-hipped, and be okay with the truth of my body. Maybe even his drawings could help me love it. I was there to push my limits, to be represented, not touched. And now every time I lay back on a doctor's table, clothes or not, my heart goes numb. The awful scrape that follows the speculum, The gloved finger, the manipulating hand on my thigh, testing the damage I've done by holding on with all my might. My muscles don't know how to relax anymore. I'm sorry, honey, she says. I'm so sorry. You're gonna bleed today more than usual.
I'm not rich, but I've got a lot of friends who'll ask me what's wrong tonight. Look at me and I'll reply, wish I knew. Just a few too many hours in the idle hands of time. I wanna be a fighter, but I found myself reclined on a bar stool, thinking about how I should straighten my spine. Suddenly it feels so weak, and everybody sees it in me. The sadness, the defenses, all the wishes found what I could be. And they tell me the past is the past, pull me in and then rub my back, but I'm trapped. And I'm not poor, but I've seen this all before. I'm counting down the dollar bills, afraid that if I eat my fill I'll be coughing up blood. 'Cause my body's gotten tired of the shit I put it through. Don't wanna be a liar, but you shouldn't hear the truth. It's not ladylike, the kind of things a desperate girl makes herself do. Suddenly I feel so weak, and everybody sees it in me. The sadness, the defenses, all the wishes found what I could be. And they tell me the past is the past, pull me in and rub me back, but I'm trapped. While I got stolen, my spirit's been broken, and Karen says it's plain to see. I'm angry and I need to speak. I need to burn the world down. Suddenly I'm starting to breathe. It's getting harder, so I roll up my sleeve. And I sing, and I sing, I'm not rich, but I've got a lot of friends who'll ask me what's wrong tonight.
There's a boulder in my throat. I swallow and it grows. I press my neck, but can't dissolve it with a touch. Once, 14, 15 years old, I let a young black boy choke me in a video. It was supposed to be pretend, but his hands were really digging in, and I said nothing. Just get the shot. I could see what he wanted, to do his job, be angry, be tough, and I'd do mine too. I'd be the best actress of all. I'd let it bruise. Later on, I'd volunteer to be the guard. Not even later on, earlier. I'd volunteer to be the guard of our forts and clubhouses. The danger was a charm. I may be a girl, but I've got a reflex for fighting. My dad was a boxer, so don't even try me. He didn't need to be around to teach me how to jab. It's in my blood, I told you, my dad. I've got power in my punch, and I'm not frightened. I used to carve sticks into weapons, just in case our club, our gang was threatened. Gnaw down the wood, make it sharp on both ends. You never know when friends will turn to enemies. And later, let the boys throw my body to the ground. practice their wrestling moves and their WWF slams, my body hitting the grass-covered earth, loving the dull hurt I was left with. Scrambling to stand up again, proud, watch me get knocked down. I will rise again, quick and sturdy, ready for action. My kid body is a fireball, a fighter on the field. Feel free to manipulate it, sacrifice it, make it real. I've never broken a bone. I take my bruises and my cuts. My adult self says, I could never hurt anyone. As a kid, I was out for blood. But even then, I knew it strange to be a girl so filled with rage. Psychologists might say it was just a stage on the way to docile sweetness. So instead of acting out myself, I let the boys throw my body to the ground. And if I wanted to whimper, I wouldn't let out a sound. I'd turn my rising wails to boulders. Boulders in my burning throat. It's kind of nice, like getting choked. At least I know what kind of pain I'm dealing with. The best thing that can happen when you're deep down low in the valley is to feel, then hear, then see the water, like the top of the mountains. It's the ocean. A great wave is coming. It's going to drown you on your pitiful ground unless you start climbing fast. Sometimes the best thing that can happen is a crisis, a big enough fire that you're forced to act. It isn't that you haven't been burned before, you have. But sometimes fight or flight is the only thing that can override your sadness. Your, it wasn't supposed to be like this. Your, I thought I would have found the job, found the partner, found the path by now, but I'm still working in this coffee shop and I don't know how I'm getting out. Well, now, I know it isn't where you wanted to be. I know you got that fancy degree, and you were such a good student, but oh, so ready to leave. You flung yourself out into the world. Girl, you got hurt by men who didn't love you, and friends who rose above you, and a body that started breaking down and hurting long before you thought it would. Sometimes the best thing that can happen is a flood. No one is coming to save you. No one is coming to pull you out of the mud. But don't worry. Pigs get dirty just to keep themselves cool. There are worse things than walking around with muck on your shoes. You're right on schedule. In fact, you're lucky, don't you know? The sooner you get knocked down by life, the sooner you're able to grow. It's called creative resilience. It's called finding your way out. It's called moving forward, shoes in hand. It's called I was lost, but now I'm found. You're going to find it for yourself, girl. You're going to renew those fallen vows you made that said you'd respect your true self. You'd never let her down. I don't know what you've been through, but I know what the flood feels like. I know what it's like to get washed up on some godforsaken night and want to howl at your misfortune, but find you only have a moan. I know what it's like to realize I'm supposed to be fully grown, but the growing is just beginning. It starts when you decide that you won't let the flood be your ending. Instead, you'll rise with the tide. You'll seek out mentors, seek out coaches, look for solutions, symbols, signs. You'll start rewriting your own narrative. You'll be the heroine this time. Victim once you called yourself, but now you have outgrown it. Hero, goddess, holy boned, you are all three, and you know it. No one is coming to save you, so it's time to save yourself. And when you decide to begin that journey, may you find your perfect help. Wherever you are on your journey, may you find your perfect